Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll discuss latest poll numbers for the Maricopa County Sheriff's race. Also tonight, hear about a new book on the sometimes fine line between treason and patriotism. And we'll take a tour of the Arizona Museum of Natural History. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Attorneys for Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio are back in court today, this time for a hearing involving a lawsuit over the Sheriff's Department's workplace raids. The suit was filed in 2014 by Puente Arizona, a civil rights group that claimed that the sheriff's use of identity theft laws to arrest and prosecute undocumented immigrants was unconstitutional.
Sheriff Arpaio had done over 80 worksite raids, and we're here to ask for a permanent injunction so he can no longer do these raids. The terror that these raids brought to our community not only affected the over 800 people that were detained and deported from these raids, but it created trauma for the entire community, not knowing if their loved ones would come home.
Arpaio's attorneys say that the laws serve the public interest by protecting victims of identity theft. Well, negative publicity surrounding the sheriff's office is apparently impacting Arpaio's re-election bid. A new poll shows Arpaio trailing challenger Paul Penzone by 10 points. Here to talk about Arpaio's political future is Rebecca Sanders, who covers Maricopa County for the Arizona Republic. Good to see you again. Thanks for being in here.
Thanks for having me.
New poll trailing by 10 points.
It's the biggest gap we've perhaps ever seen. It's quite surprising to see the Democrat Paul Penzone in the lead this far.
This poll was done by Sherpa Public Affairs. What do we know about them?
Right, so this is run by Gibson McKay, who's a Republican consultant out of the Valley, and he's pretty well established, although I've never seen a poll from him. I've only known him as a consultant, so it's a little bit unusual. However, we're seeing a lot of polls that consultants are kind of just running because they get the publicity out of it and it's interesting, and we write stories about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, didn't he used to work with John McCain in some way?
That's right, yes. So he has a congressional background as well as a variety of other government and public affairs experience.
Now, I know the timing of these polls, they're a snapshot, and it depends when the snapshot is taken. Was this before or after the Justice Department's announcement to go ahead with criminal charges?
That's what's interesting. It's before the announcement that those criminal charges were intended to be filed. And so you would perhaps conclude that if the poll were taken today, it might be a little bit worse. However, the opinion of Arpaio is pretty baked in by now for most folks in the Valley.
It's pretty baked in, but I still find it almost impossible to believe. I can see him perhaps trailing 10 points?
That is really what popped out to me too. And, of course, it's a fairly small sample, fairly high margin of error. And in fact, because of the margin of error, it's within that margin.
It's 5-something, isn't it?
Right. So you could say it's a statistical dead heat, essentially. But I think when you combine it with the polling that's been going on the past couple of months, including an Arizona Republic poll that showed Arpaio's unfavorables at quite high numbers, what you're seeing is probably the sheriff's toughest race ever.
And some interesting little tidbits out of this poll. He's losing among men 55 to 38?
And also among some older voters, the 50 to 65 class. These are both surprises as well. I don't know what to make of the male unfavorability. The older voters, though, I think what's interesting there is perhaps what's happening is that's a base of his that is turning away and is saying, you know what, enough is enough. Perhaps it's time for new blood. If you're not listening to a judge, that they have a problem with that. But again, this is one poll, and so it could depend on just the universe of people that he talked to.
Other interesting, you remember 50 to 64, you mentioned that, again, losing by 6 percentage points there. But the over 65 crowd, still ahead, and by 9 points.
That's right. And who turns out the most?
Yes.
Those older voters.
White vote is split, Latinos 3-1 against.
As always.
Yeah, not really a surprise there.
It's pretty much across the board always showing that there's a strong Hispanic opposition.
Now, do you think possibly the falling numbers for Donald Trump are seeping over into Arpaio's race?
Perhaps. I mean, you know, Arpaio has tied himself to Trump very strongly. In fact, defending Trump of the video that surfaced last week about Trump's groping comments. And so he has really championed the Republican presidential candidate and is not backing down from that. So perhaps there's a little swing there. But I think that voters in general are going to evaluate candidates based on that candidate themselves, and not, it might factor in a little bit who they're supporting, but not a huge amount.
So with all this going on, how is the Arpaio campaign responding? What kind of ads are we seeing? Is it starting to get a little nasty out there?
Well, of course, he's got an attack ad that's been going that has drawn a defamation lawsuit from his opponent, Paul Penzone. It deals with a protective order that both Penzone and his wife filed against each other. And we saw that ad last time. But what I find really interesting is, as I talked to political consultants early in the campaign about how Arpaio should paint himself, they said, use a positive message. You know, say you're a guy that, you know, people like to be around and who is looking out for the community. And we've got these, you know, animal ads that are going out about his posse that, you know, uses animals to go, you know, comfort crime victims and things like that, and also the animal shelter. And who doesn't love puppies in a political ad? So, you know, they're going for that.
And as far as money is concerned, Penzone, last I saw, like 290 some odd thousand on hand. Arpaio, much more.
That's right. And this money advantage has been there for pretty much every race that he's run. So that's a distinct advantage for Arpaio, but also we've seen him spending a lot to make that money, right? The cost to send out mailers to solicit the contributions. And like I said, that baked-in opinion, you know, his opponent doesn't necessarily need to be as well known. He just needs to be the opponent to get some people's votes.
Last question. Are we seeing Arpaio and Penzone out? I mean, we see the television ads and we hear the news reports, really, but are they out there stumping?
Yes, they definitely are. And one of the most high-profile stumping that we saw recently was when Donald Trump said that, you know, Obama was born in the United States. I'm not going to go after the birth certificate anymore. Arpaio, you know, had a meeting with a surprise Tea Party just a day or two afterwards to say, hey, I'm not giving up on this. I'm going to still be investigating this. We're close to the truth. And that obviously was, you know, a really a great motivator to his base to hear that he wasn't backing down.
Well, I would imagine if it's close, and it certainly seems close by every measure, we're going to see a whole lot of, we're going to hear a whole lot of noise and see a whole lot of things here in the last few weeks.
And with early ballots going out now, the dash is on to get those votes rounded up right now.
All right. Good to see you, Rebecca. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
U.S. history is riddled with people making accusations and countercharges of treason, but in many cases, it's a fine line between treason and patriotism. Arizona Capital Times reporter Jeremy Duda explores the difference between resistance and subversion in his debut book, If This Be Treason: The American Rogues and Rebels Who Walk the Line Between Dissent and Betrayal. Jeremy Duda joins us now to talk about his new book. First of all, congratulations. First book.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Exciting to see that first book.
It is. It's great to see your name on the cover and hold it in your hands.
All right, let's start with, let's just get a definition here. What is treason?
Well, under the U.S. Constitution, it is levying war against the United States government or giving aid or comfort to its enemies. And it's the only crime actually defined in the Constitution that was done by the framers on purpose. They wanted to make sure it couldn't be changed for by Congress to use against citizens. Obviously, they have found many workarounds in other instances.
I was going to say, it seems as though there is a real question as to where dissent ends and betrayal begins.
Sure, and when we hear the word treason thrown around a lot, and it always has been, in this country, and I think probably every other country. But when you hear that, usually people aren't talking about this constitutional definition. They're talking about this kind of vaguer gray area about, are you betraying the country? Are you a loyal American? Are you doing something that's viewed as, disloyal? And
let's get started here, because you have 12 cases here throughout history. I mean, everything from Revolutionary War era to Edward Snowden, who we'll get to in a second. Who was George Logan?
George Logan was a Philadelphia doctor back in the earliest days of the Republic. He was a Democratic Republican, an ally of Thomas Jefferson, very much opposed to the Federalist rulers, the regimes of George Washington, John Adams, the people who controlled Congress at the time. Now, in the late 1790s, we were engaged in what was known as the Quasi-War with France. There was a lot of friction related to the Revolutionary Wars and kind of the fallout from their revolution and ours. And we were on the brink of war. Logan, as most Democratic Republicans, very pro-French, on his own dime, sailed to France, decided he was going to meet with the leaders of the country, try to find a way to kind of talk everyone down from the ledge.
And basically, he did that. I mean, he went over there with no one telling him he could or should. He just did it, and he really did a lot of, I don't know, damage, but he made a difference, didn't he?
I mean, he may have. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that the French were realizing at the time, hey, we are already fighting the British and everyone else in Europe. We can't afford to get into another war halfway around the world. But he received a very good reception, kind of definitely helped, and the timing of his voyage definitely helped the French kind of come around and say, okay, well, we need to end all this and kind of make peace here.
Yeah, and the result of his actions, though, the Logan Act, what's that?
The Logan Act is a law that really one of the most worthless laws ever passed by Congress. It basically forbids American citizens from essentially conducting their own private foreign policy. It makes it illegal to kind of negotiate or meet with foreign governments to discuss controversies involving the United States. Now, no one has ever actually been convicted of this, but we hear accusations thrown around all the time. Most recently, I think, with Donald Trump and talking about hoping the Russians have some of Hillary Clinton's emails.
All right, we got some other folks I want to touch on here. Nicholas Trist. This was a fascinating story. Who is Nicholas Trist?
The subject of one of my favorite chapters of the book. He was one of the top brass over at the State Department in the 1840s during our war with Mexico. Once the war had been going on for a little while, we were very successful. President Polk needed to send an envoy down there to kind of work out a peace treaty, so he sent Trist. Trist was a good, loyal Southern Democrat, slaveholder, very loyal to the Polk administration. Got down there, feuded with General Winfield Scott for a while, but after a little while he realized maybe he didn't agree with the Polk administration's goals in Mexico so much. He started to realize in his view that he didn't think it was just what we were doing. We'd taken so much of Mexico's territory. Obviously, we are sitting on some of it right now.
Yes, we are.
And at the time this was happening, a lot of folks in Congress, a lot of the congressional Democrats, even some people in Polk's cabinet, they said, why stop where we are? We are taking so much of the country. We could extend our borders, a lot further south. Polk got word that Trist maybe wasn't as sympathetic to the war aims as he had been, ordered him back to the United States. Trist decided not to do that. He said, I'm going to stay here and make not a just treaty, but the least bad treaty he figured he could make. And by the time he came back to the United States with a treaty, it had achieved pretty much all of Polk's original war aims. He couldn't really turn it down. He was not happy about it, but submitted it to the Senate, they passed it.
So he basically personally negotiated a treaty.
Yeah, very much so. And the treaty resulted in Arizona and a number of other states joining the U.S. is responsible for the southern border of our country now.
Southern border would have been how much further south? Baja California would have been included, correct?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say at the time. Polk was getting a lot of pushback in Congress, but who knows how far things might have gotten and had Trist not done what he did.
All right. Also in the book, the Federalist Party is mentioned, and to me, was this the first anti-war party, the first anti-war for America getting involved party?
Yeah, they certainly became so during the War of 1812. And it was kind of interesting, where in the first two chapters, the Federalists are kind of the persecutors, and in this one, kind of the persecuted. You know, by the time the War of 1812 started, you know, New England, which was the last bastion of the Federalist Party, very opposed, lots of commercial ties to Great Britain. They were kind of bearing the brunt of a lot of the fighting, and they'd seen their political power really slipping away through the years of Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. They decided to hold what became known as the Hartford Convention, which was basically a large airing of grievances against the Democratic Republican Party, but it was, outsiders weren't admitted. There's a lot of secrecy surrounding it and a lot of rumors. And in the end, they basically, kind of did the airing of grievances, wrote up a list of them, a bunch of proposed constitutional amendments that never went anywhere, and nothing. There were a lot of rumors for many years that they were talking about secession, and all evidence points to that not being the case. But these people were dogged by rumors for years and years. Their children and grandchildren even were spent their lives defending them.
But because of being against the War of 1812.
Because of being against the war, because of the rumors that their opposition to the war is leading them to, try to kind of forge a separate peace with Britain or secede from the Union.
Yeah, okay. Last is Edward Snowden. You have 12 cases here. We can't go over our 12, but I want to get to Edward Snowden because he's the most recent, basically exposing government spying on its own citizens.
Sure, and I think Snowden is probably, possibly more than anyone, certainly more than any other, modern figure, kind of embodies the spirit of the book. There's so many people, maybe even the majority of people, who feel like what Snowden did in exposing these, NSA spying programs, feel like it was treason. He betrayed the country, revealed some of our closest secrets, things critical to national security. A lot of Americans, they feel like he's a hero. They feel like he exposed government overreach and things that the federal government should have been doing. Obviously, he's still in exile because the federal government does not agree with that.
Yes.
But
so, and again, he's a perfect person who, as you said, is either a hero or a traitor, either patriotism or treason. Why did you decide to go down this path? Was there a single incident, a single story?
Well, the incident that kind of was the genesis of this book was, remember a few years ago when President Obama was trying to work out the details of this deal with Iran, a group of Republican senators, 47 of them, sent a letter to the leaders of Iran, told them that, hey, be careful on anything you agree to with Obama, because we might just overturn that, or we might stop it, the next president might overturn it. A lot of Democrats in the Senate said, hey, that's treason, you're undermining our foreign policy. They accused them of violating the Logan Act.
Yes.
And so that was kind of the inspiration for the book. It was my publisher actually came up with the idea, and I had to go find these 12 examples.
How much research was done? I mean, quite a bit, I would imagine.
A lot. I spent a lot of weekends at the ASU library. There's a long stretch of time where my wife didn't see me much, but.
And as far as convictions, we still don't see much of this. Will that change, do you think, in the future?
I doubt it. In terms of treason?
Yeah.
Probably not. I mean, we haven't actually had a person convicted of treason in this country since 1952. So it seems, and there's probably some incidents where people probably could have been charged with it. Think of John Walker Lind, the American Taliban. He was actually taking up arms against his country's armed forces. He wasn't charged with that. So it's pretty rare. There's plenty of other laws in a lot of these cases that can be used for various crimes.
So, any ideas for a next book here? I mean, have you got the bug here?
Definitely got kind of a long list of ideas. Most of them will probably never pan out, but I've got a few that I'm kicking around.
And as far as this book is concerned, there are 12 stories. Did you know all 12 of these?
No, some of them, a lot of them. I'm a lifelong student of history, big history buff, so a lot of them came to mind pretty easily. A few of them, research turned up some interesting nuggets that I didn't know. Yeah,
the Trist story, the Nicholas Trist story, I think is the most fascinating one in the book as well, because it deals with our area. And you're talking about a guy who goes down there and was fighting with Winfield Scott, then all of a sudden they kind of both get together as partners practically. and really changes history, at least our history.
Yeah, I was vaguely aware of this, and as I started kind of coming up with the ideas for the chapter, I said, hey, wait a minute, Nicholas Trist, that is perfect.
And it was perfect. Well, it's a great book. Congratulations on your first book. I know that must be very exciting for you. Good to see you.
Thanks a lot.
Finally tonight, we take a step back in time, way back. The Arizona Museum of Natural History is a collection of our state's ancient history, dating back some 200 million years. Producer Shauna Fisher and photographer Rob McJannet take us on a tour of the museum and its working lab.
On a quiet corner in Mesa, dinosaurs rule the earth.
You have to come here, you have to see our dinosaurs.
Kathy Eastman is the curator of education for the Arizona Museum of Natural History.
We have dinosaurs, we have Ice Age animals, we have the big flying reptiles, the pterosaurs.
And while dinosaurs are the main attraction at the museum, Eastman says there is so much more to see.
We really are your full-service natural history museum. We have collections in archaeology with material culture, lots of beautiful pottery.
The museum is an interactive journey through time, starting hundreds of millions of years ago. Each exhibit walks guests through a specific time period and explains what life was like. And while it may be hard to believe, Arizona was a hotbed of sorts for dinosaur activity.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Dr. Robert McCord and his team are part of the research and preservation arm of the museum.
I think you're probably right.
Guests are not allowed in the lab,
And you see them along the edge.
and this is the first time cameras have been allowed inside as well.
So we have some of the earliest dinosaurs in the Painted Desert, Petrified Forest region, dating nearly around 200 million years old. We have some forms in the early Jurassic, 180 million years old or something, and then dinosaurs from the late Cretaceous as well.
As a paleontologist, it's Dr. McCord's job to collect, preserve, and catalog fossils.
Contrary to popular belief, we don't just kind of randomly go out and start digging a hole ever. In finding dinosaurs, we normally look where fossils or dinosaurs have been found before, or we scour geologic reports.
After McCord's team locates a site, they don't examine it in the field. Instead, they cover it in a plaster jacket.
First laying tissue paper and burlap around it, and then finally plaster Paris. So we make a cast, kind of like doctors used to use on broken arms. And then we take that whole jacketed fossil back to a preparation lab where in air conditioning and good lighting and chairs and all that good stuff, we can work on them at our leisure.
Dr. McCord says the public also plays a part in discovering fossils.
Recently, a gentleman called us who said he had a big bone, and he brought it in, and it's certainly an elephant bone. And given that about a dozen elephants have been found in the Phoenix Basin before, mammoths, Columbian mammoths, it's likely it's a Columbian mammoth.
Once McCord and his team clean up the bone a bit and verify its origin, it could go on display at the museum.
We have the Glyptodon shells here.
And Kathy Eastman says that's just one of the bonuses of having a working lab at the museum.
Golden Shores mammoth up here.
A museum that creates a bridge from the past to the present,
Dinosaurs and mammals and everything else.
bringing our ancient history alive.
To me, one of the most important things about having a museum in a community is our focus. We do have the focus on research and preservation, but preservation's so much brighter because we're preserving our culture, our history for generations to come.
The museum is closed Mondays. You can go to the website, arizonamuseumofnaturalhistory.org, for more information. Friday on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll discuss this week's U.S. Senate debate between John McCain and Ann Kirkpatrick right here at Arizona PBS. And we'll look at another debate we hosted, this one involving candidates for the Corporation Commission. That's on the next Journalists Roundtable. A reminder, if you'd like to see tonight's show again, watch past shows, maybe see what we have in the future, check us out, azpbs.org/horizon. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thanks for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.